Welcome back to the channel. This is Nasa's Thread. Today on the channel, I'll be showing you how to make the stylish Queen Anne neckline top with a petal sleeve. I also have a tutorial on the channel on how to make this transparent top I'm wearing inside, though I made the gown in that video, but you can use from that to create your top. If this is something you're interested in, you want to keep watching. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, do well to subscribe, and thank you for stopping by. Now, to start off, we're going to be needing our wadding, our zipper, our lining, and our Ankara of choice. So these are the major things you'll be needing to create the top. Now, I have my pattern paper all set, and I've marked my starting point, which will serve as my shoulder line. And I'm going ahead to mark my other vertical measurements from my shoulder to the chest line, my shoulder to the bust point, to the under bust, to the waist, and then to the full length of my top. And I'll go in with my rule to just create my lines at those points. So to get your chest line, you want to divide your round bust by 6 and then add 1.5 inches and go ahead to just place that down. You'll notice that I've actually not made my slant, so I'm just going ahead to just place it down before going in to do the other thing. So I have my lines all marked now. I'm just going to label my line. This is the chest, this is the bust point, the under bust, the waist, and then the length of the blouse. So now the next thing I want to do is that on my starting line, I'll go ahead and mark half of my shoulder measurement, and I'll also mark it on my chest line and then connect that together with a vertical line. Okay, now I have that, and this is the center. I'm just marking the center of my paper, and I'm going ahead to mark a neck width of 3 inches for my neck width, and then on this line here I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant and just connect it together. Okay, you know our shoulders is not straight, so you need to have a slant for your blouse or whatever you're making to sit comfortably. Now the next thing I'm doing is going ahead to place my bust span, half of my bust span, which is the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I'm placing that from my bust point line to the full length. So you're going to divide whatever you get, the distance from one nipple to the other, you divide that by 2, and then go ahead to mark that from your bust point line to the full length and connect them together just like I did. All right. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to get the midpoint of what I have here, and then we're going to just make a point there. So we're using a princess dart. We're trying to make a princess dart bustier for this. So just watch how I'm placing my rule to just make that connection. So it's important that the curve around here comes out looking nice. So you can see how I place this. Ensure that you're placing yours the way it should be so that you don't have it looking bent. So you can see what I have right now. Now the next thing I want to do, I'm just touching up the part which is curved so that I don't have it shooting out. I don't have those edges sharp. Now from there, I'm taking a 2 inches that intake on the part going towards the side. I just took 2 inches. Now if you're on a smaller bust size, you can go with 1.5. If you're a bigger bust size, you can go with 2.5 inches. Okay, I just use 2 inches because it is comfortable enough for me, and then I'm going to use my rule to connect from that point to the bust point line. So this is what I have. So the 2 inches, you're taking it from your under bust to the full length. Take note of that. And then coming down from the armhole, I came down by 1 inch, and I'm going to use my rule again to connect this back to the bust line like so. So this is what I have there. Okay, so ensure that while making your curves, this thing is not sharp. Okay, so that by the time you finish making your blouse, it's not sharp. Now I'm extending that second line I have by that 1 inch I came down. Reason it's so that by the time we're joining both pieces together, we'll not have one longer than the other. So these are the parts we're going to be taking off on this blouse. This will help to give us that defined curve around the bust area of our blouse. So now I'm just using my rule. I didn't like how sharp this place is, so I'll just use my curve rule to just touch up that line to just make it to not have sharp edges. Like I said, you don't need to have your bust, the nipple area of your blouse shooting out by the time you finish. Now I'm going ahead to place my horizontal measurement starting from the bust. So I just took quarter of my round bust divided by 4, and then I added the dart intake I have around that point, and then added a stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. And I'm doing it for the other parts also. You're going to go to your waist, take quarter of your round waist measurement, the dart intake you have there, and then your stitching allowance. Sorry, I'm using a stitching allowance of 2 inches. And then at the hip area also, you're going to take quarter of your round hip, take the dart intake you have there, and then your stitching allowance. Considering the fact that we're using a lining for this, so just add 2 inches works perfectly. By the time you turn, you still have allowance inside of it in case you later want to, make some adjustments. So now for the hip, I want to extend it a little more. I just extended my hip area by 1.5 inches, and then I'll connect it to the waist. So this gives me a sort of curve around the hip area. The hip area becomes larger than what I have. Okay, what it should be, right? It gives me that defined curve around there. Now from the center of my piece, I went down by 1 inch, and then from the side I went up by 1.5 inches, and I'm going to just connect. So I'm trying to make the side of my blouse to be shorter than my center front. So this is the curve we have around there. You can as well go as high as you want around the sides, and then extend the front to how deep you want it to be. Okay, I hope you get the hang of it. And next, I'm just using my curve rule to connect my armhole like so. So this is what I have for my front pattern. Now the next thing is the Queen Anne neckline. Now for this neckline, it depends on how deep you want yours to appear. So I used for mine, I actually, the first time I went down by, I wanted to use my chest measurement, but I was like, oh, that doesn't work so well because it will be too wide considering your bust position. So what I did was to come down by 4 inches, and I just made a line like so. Now on that line, I'm just going to connect it to meet that point. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to come in from that point by 2.5 inches and make a mark. Now I'm going to connect. So just watch what I'm doing here. I'm connecting from my neck width to that point, Okay, that was my initial marking, but I noticed that it will make this to be like the sleeve will be quite short at the top. So I went down by 1/2 inch from what I took earlier, and then redid the same measurement as I came in by that 2.5 inches which I measured earlier on my first line. Now the reason why I went down was because I didn't want this to be too to the sleeve to be holding around the neck area. Okay, I've had the experience before, so I just wanted this to be free. And another thing, I just extended to my chest line like so. You can see what I'm connecting right there. But if you want to take yours higher, you can absolutely do that so that you don't have your cleavage exposed. I did that simply because I knew I'll be wearing something inside of it by the time I put it on. Okay, but if you also want to do yours like mine, you can absolutely do that. So this is what we have for the neckline. I'm just going ahead to label them center front, the side front, and I'm going in with my scissors to just cut out the parts that I will not be using for this. So I hope you understand what I explained around the neck area. After doing that, this is what we have for our front pattern. So you can see the curve area of the bust side, it's curved perfectly. Now for the back, I've gone ahead to mark my zipper allowance. I actually marked out 2 inches on this, and I marked my shoulder to the bust point, to my under bust, to the waist, and then um to the full length. Okay, sorry, I didn't mark my underbust, just my chest line, bust point, and then the waist and the full length. So I'm doing the same thing I did in front. I took half of my shoulder on the shoulder line. I also marked it on the chest line, connected that vertically. I marked my neck width of 3 inches, and I went down by 1 inch on my shoulder line, and then just made a slant. Now for the back neckline, I'm just using 1.5 inches for this. Since the front is already wide enough, we don't need the back to be wide. So we're just using a simple neckline for the back. I'm just going to create a curve like so. Remember I said 1.5 inches for our neck depth for the back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take this measurement I have here, and then I will get my midpoint. Then now for this part, you can decide to just also create a princess dart for the back of your piece. Well, now what I did was to just take quarter of my round waist, sorry, my round hip measurement, and then I marked that. Okay, so now we're marking our nipple to nipple measurement, which is the bust span, the difference from one nipple to the other. Marked that from the chest line to the full length, unlike the front where we marked from the bust point to the full length. This part we're starting from the chest line to the full length and connecting that in a straight line. So I want to actually use a princess dart for this. So I'm going to take 1/2 inch on both sides on my waist point, and I'll connect that to the top. Like I said, it's totally optional. You can decide to just make a normal dart, like a full piece for the back. Now I'm connecting to the midpoint of what I have on my armhole depth. I'm just going to make that connection like so. And then the next thing I'll do is to, so we're just connecting from the waist to the chest point, and then from the waist to the full length also, just the normal way we connect our normal dart. So this is what I have for my back piece. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to get quarter of my round bust measurement. So you notice I'm taking this measurement from after the line which I marked for my zipper, and then I'm using my seam allowance of 2 inches, and then at the waist area I'm going to add that intake after taking quarter of my round waist, and then I will add my stitching allowance of 2 inches. I'm repeating the same thing around the hip, and I'm going to just connect the points which I've created. So take note to use the same allowance you're using in front at the back also. Now we're going to extend the hip just like we did for the front by 1.5 inches, and then connect that back into the waistline. So whatever you're doing to the front, especially by the sides of your piece, it needs to be matching with what you have on your back piece. Now I'm going down by 1.5 inches on my center back, and then I'm going to go up from the side by 1.5 inches also, and I will connect that together. So we're extending the center back of our front and the center back of our back, so that they have like they're longer than the sides. Like I said, whatever you do to the front, also repeat to your back so that it has a matching look, and you don't end up getting confused. Now the next thing is just to connect our armhole curve just like this. Okay, so you can see what we have for the back. Now we're going to go over to the zip area to work on it. Now what I want to do is just extend my neckline into this point. Now for the zip, you don't need your zip allowance should not be bigger than at most 1.5 inches. Okay, considering the fact that you're turning this with a lining, it should not be bigger than 1.5 inches, so that by the time you turn with the lining, you have 1 inch to work with. Now on my waist point, I went in by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect from that 1/2 inch to the base and then to the top. So you can see that I went in with my main measurement, the initial measurement which I've already made. I just went in by 1/2 inch from my center back of the waist. You can see what I have there, connected it to the top and the base, and then I'm going ahead to mark 1.5 inch, which is what I want to use for my zip allowance. So you're going to connect like so. Just watch how I'm connecting this. So this helps to reduce that bulge effect we have on the back of our clothes by the time we fix our zippers. So now I'm just going to connect. It's going to have like a curve. When you're stitching, you need to follow the curve around this to stitch your zipper so that it gives it a relaxed feel and it comes out looking nice. So this is what we have for this. I'll just go ahead to just cut out the parts we will not be needing. So now the next thing I want to do is to further reduce zebra bulge for my blouse. So what I'll do is to go up and down on both sides by half of an inch. Now let me tell you the right thing to do here. So the right thing to do here is to take the difference between your waist, your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to the waist at the back. For example, mine is 1.5 inches. My shoulder to waist in front is 16. My shoulder to waist at the back is 14. 16 minus, sorry, 14 and a half. 16 minus 14 and a half gives me 1.5. So I'm meant to take 0.75 inch on both sides, up and down. Okay, for this point, I just used half of an inch. And if you notice at the beginning of the video, I still had a little bit of bulge on this. So if you want this to be perfect, take the difference between what you have on your shoulder to waist in front and the shoulder to waist at the back, and then you connect that to the side and use your tape to just hold it down. So you can see what I actually did here. Okay, I'm just explaining to you so you can, when you do this on your clothes, it comes out looking nice. It looks nicer than what I had. Okay, so that was a mistake on my part. I was a mistake on my part. Okay, so I hope you don't make that mistake. Take difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. That's what you're going to use to reduce the zipper bulge on the center back of your piece. Just go to whatever you get, mark that at the top and then at the base, and connect it to the side, just the same way we mark that, right? Connect it to the side, cut out one of that open, close that up with your tape, and you have it all sorted out. So I'm just going ahead to just cut out the that which we have for the back piece like so. I'm just going to cut it out and we have our back piece all set. So ensure that while you're cutting this, you have the perfect curve around this. So the next thing we're going to do now, we have our patterns. We're going to place this on our fabrics, place this on our lining, and go ahead to cut them out. So this is what I have for the front. After I cut it out, I added half of an inch to the sides, to the parts I'm joining, to my armhole area, to the shoulder, to the neckline area. So I actually ironed interfacing to my piece. So this is the main part fabric, that's the Ankara fabric. I ironed interfacing to it, and I also cut out my wording. So if you want to know how I cut out my wording, let me know in the comment section and I'll show a video of how to do that. And this is what I have for it. So I'm going to place this the way it should be placed and then stitch it down, starting from the end, start from the edge to stitch, please. It gives it a perfect fitting. And then for the back piece also, I've cut it out on my fabric and the lining. I added my allowances to the armhole, to the side I'm stitching, and then to the neckline and also to the shoulder areas. For this, I'm just going to place them accordingly and stitch. So this is what I have for my front piece. This is the lining piece. I also interfaced and I also used my wording on it. So what you're going to do for this, after you finish stitching, open it and give it a very good press. Iron it very well. So now for the front, we're going to stitch the neckline, stitch the base and also the sides. And then for the back, which I have here, I've also ironed open my stitching. So make sure you iron everything you do, iron, so that your dress comes out looking nice. Now I'm going to place this right side of my lining to the right side of my Ankara and go ahead and stitch the neckline, the base and also the sides. So for the back piece, this is what I have. So you can notice the extra we have at the edge. So what you're going to do is that remove half inch from your lining so that it's not the same length with what you have for your Ankara fabric. So this is what I have for my front also. Now we're going to work on the back. So if you're using a zip that is long enough to go from the end to the top, just go ahead and place it down. But if your zip will not go through it, like you have some parts where your will not get to, the length of your zip is not as long as what you have at the back, just go ahead and join the little part before you go ahead to stitch the zip. So this is what I have for mine after I finish doing that. So I have my back piece. Ensure that your zip can open after you finish. So now placing the brought back and the front together. I'm going to align them by the shoulders, and I'll go ahead to stitch the shoulders. I'll stitch lining to lining and ankara to ankara, and I will also stitch the side using my measurements. So this is what I have after I finish doing that. So this top is actually looking nice. If you don't want to add a sleeve, just go ahead to close the armhole also. Now for the sleeve, I've gone ahead to create my petal sleeve. It's also known as a tulip sleeve. So if you want a detailed tutorial on how I created this, let me know and I will drop the video on how I did this. So what I'll do is to just go ahead to attach my sleeves to the opening of the armhole, and this is the final look of this blouse. I tell you what, when I wore this, everybody, I had lots and lots of compliments. So when you're making this, make this with an Ankara fabric that is very colorful and very pretty. Let me know if you enjoyed watching this video in the comment section. If you're yet to subscribe, do well to subscribe, like my video, and I'll see you in next time. Bye.